take a moment to recognize the ongoing struggle of the youth in Nepal who are protesting courageously for justice, democracy, and dignity. The voices remind us that land, rights, and freedom are deeply interconnected. I think in solidarity with youth, Nepalian youth, let's us pause for a brief moment of a silence uh, for, a, for 10 to 15 seconds. Thank you. Let us carry the spirit of resistance and hope into our discussion today. We are gathered today for our panel titled Her Land, Her Power, Feminist Voices for Land Justice. Before I introduce myself and our panelists, a few technical notes from our side. Interpretation is available in French, Spanish, and Portuguese. Please click on the globe icon at the bottom of your Zoom window and select your language. We would love to know who is with us. Please introduce yourself in the chat with your name, where are you joining from, what work you are going, or what work you are doing, and one word you associate it with land justice. That would be very good. This webinar is being streamed live on multiple platforms. If you have in further process, if you have any questions, please use Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. If you are directing your questions to any of the panelists, please indicate their specific name. Today's session is being recorded and the link will be shared afterwards along with the summarizing key messages on the Land Portal's website. The session, Her Land, Her Power, is about the feminist voices and land justice for women, especially indigenous, nomadic, rural, and urban women. For them, I think land is not only source of livelihood, it is identity, culture, and power. And yet, women remain the most disposed when it comes to land ownership and land governance. The labor sustained communities, but their rights are often invisible. Today, through these voices of young women across the Asia, we will see how women are not only claiming the land, they are transforming into the spaces of justice, sustainability, livelihood, and leadership. Let me now introduce our inspiring speakers and panelists with you. We have with us is Rupa Sen. She is human rights lawyers and educator from the Karbi indigenous community in Northeast India, engaged in indigenous rights and youth leadership. We have also with us Apurva Shelja. She is a researcher focusing on governance, secure tenure, and gender with experience in building women's agency in land governance. We have also with us Tanji. She is a herder from Mongolia who upholds nomadic transition and promoting sustainable pasture management through the responsible nomadic standards. And myself, I'm Megha Shade. I'm a development practitioner from India and focuses on amplifying the voices of young pastoralists, indigenous, and smallholder farmers. Together, our panel brings stories of sacred lands, urban struggles, women's voices in governance, nomadic resilience, and pastoralist claims to commons. Um I would like, if something is missing or I miss, if a panelist wants to add something on the introduction, they can unmute themselves and introduce uh, themselves right now. Is anything if you wanted to add uh, to your particular to your introduction? Okay, if not, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining today. Um, Thank you once again for all the participants who are participating. We are now begin our panel presentation. Each of the speakers has about 8 to 9 minutes for their presentation, and then we will go for a Q&A session. In between the presentation, I would like to have some interactive polls with you to participate and interactively with all of us. And before starting with our first presentation, to I would like Linian to go for a first poll. Um, Thank you. Uh, the question is, what percentage of world's landowners are women? This is a single choice questions. Again, you can cast your choice here. The question is, what percent of world's landowners are women? We will wait for maybe 5, 7 seconds. Okay. Thank you so much for participating in this poll. Linian, can I see the results? Okay, so we have highest voting for 25%, but unfortunately, the correct answer is C option, and that is 13%. Despite women producing much of the world's food, only 13% of them own the land, and that is why today's discussion is very important. Thank you again for participating, and let's begin with our first speaker, Rukasen, who will be speaking on sacred land, sacred voices, struggle of indigenous women saving their culture. Over to you, Rukasen. Thank you.
Thank you, Megha. Hi, everyone. Good morning and good afternoon. My name is Rukasan Bepi, and I'm from Karbi community in Northeast India. Well, I am deeply honored to share with you the story of indigenous women as the protector of our sacred lands and the keepers of our culture. You see, for us, land is not just a territory, but it is sacred. So it carries the memory of our ancestors, our spirituality, our songs, and our identity as well. Globally, indigenous women represent only about 6% if we talk about the studies of the population, yet we protect our 80% of the world's remaining biodiversity. So this shows how deeply connected our lives are to land. And within this relationship, indigenous women play a central role. They are the carriers of traditional knowledge, the teachers of language, and the guardians of forests and food system. But today, their voices are being silenced and their lands are under threat. Uh, Indigenous women faces challenges as well. So you see, indigenous women face challenges in many struggle in defending their rights and culture. First, there is the constant encroachment of territories by extractive industry. This is, I'm talking through my experience in Assam, where I came from, like in mining, lodging, and now recently the industries have taken away 3,000 bighas, meaning 1,000 acres of land of the indigenous land. uh, this is not only displaced communities, but also it destroys forests that women depend for food, medicine, and cultural practice. So if people visit to Northeast India, you will find that women are the herders and also the sole uh, sole depend on the food and medicines in in their cultural practices as well. Second is that climate change as well is altering our lands and forests, unpredictable rainfall. And in Assam, every year you will find that floods and heat are changing our agriculture and threatening our food security as well. So in my region, like you see, over 90% of indigenous women rely on agriculture and forests for their livelihoods. When land suffers, their survival is directly impacted. Uh, you see, women are the one who lead the change. Yet, despite the struggles, indigenous women are not silenced. They are rising as leaders and also change makers. When I visited Manipur, you will find that in terms of food securities and all, you will find a market where only mothers are the one who is who are the one who bring food or vegetables from the forest. At the same time, you will find that it is the mother. Like in Meghalaya, also you will find when it comes to land, it's like a matrilineal policy that they follow. So, yet, despite these struggles, Indigenous women are not silenced and they are rising as leaders and change makers across Asia and the world. Women are also reviving traditional knowledge by protecting their forests. Recently, we have the case study with our people back in there and leading campaigns to safeguard sacred lands. You see, researchers also shows that when women are included in forest management conservation, outcome it improve more significantly. In many indigenous networks, women are leading like over 60% of cultural revival initiatives, whether it is preserving seeds, documenting languages, or organizing cultural festival for the youth. In my community, women organize storytelling circles and cultural exhibitions to pass on our traditions to the younger generations as well. So they are teaching resilience not only to survive, but to thrive with dignity. This is why I say Indigenous women are not just victims of loss, but also are leaders of hope and change. So while preparing my presentation as well, I have gone through the report from the which was published by FAO, like Women and Men Land Inheritance. This study was made solely from the South for the Southeast Asia in Cambodia. So, in order to understand how land rights and land property are distributed within households, and particularly between women and men. So, a number of factors need to be considered. Like first, until recently, indigenous communities were self-governing entities guided by internal and autonomous rules in many respects that still are, but ethnicities and customary law are the generally guiding principle for the inheritance and intergenerational transfers of assets, but their implementations is diverse and can vary among communities of the same ethnic group and can be influenced for others changes to different degrees. So therefore, the informations gathered here is specific. Each research and site outlines different process of adaptations in local ethnic, social, gender, and cultural context in Cambodia as well. When I mentioned about Meghalaya as a matrilineal one, it is in the social norms, but in realities of context, you will see that even though it's a matrilineal one, uh, the decisions makers are always the men. Next slide. Women leading, yes. So you see, women are the one who is leading change voices of resistance and leadership. That is why community-led initiative to protect their land and cultural heritage, educational and traditional knowledge revival, and storytelling, roles in climate resilience and sustainable practices as well. I have put some call for action as well. Call to actions. Next slide, please. Call to actions and future pathways as well. So this brings me to the final point of the way forward. Protecting sacred lands means protecting sacred voices. This is what I always understood. And to do this, we must recognize and strengthen the indigenous women's leadership, and we must also secure land rights, amplify their voices in decisions making spaces, and also to build stronger collaborations between the communities, government, and allies as well. So I invite you all here today and let us stand for indigenous women. Let us protect and care for the sacred forests and lands, and let us safeguard our culture and biodiversity, not just for indigenous people, but for also the future of all humanity as well. Together, let's protect and care for our sacred lands and voices for a future rooted in our culture and respect. Thank you, everyone. If there is any questions or any keynotes that you want to put add on, thank you, Megha.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Rukasan, for your very brief, detailed, and with data and analysis. You have presented voices of indigenous women and how indigenous women are holding on to culture and sacred connection with the land.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Now I
Thank you,
would like
Nika.
to invite our second panelist, Apurva, who will be speaking on women's voices and agency in land governance. Uh, Thank you, Apurva, and floor is all yours.
Yeah. Uh, Thank you, Megha. Thank you. And thank you, Rupesh, for that amazing presentation. It is just going to that formed an amazing base to lay over my presentation on. I'm just going to, it might sound repetitive, but that is the core issue. We need to talk about it more and more. So while I'm talking about the agency and voice of women, I'm uh, concentrating on the common pool resources or something that we call commons. The resources like land, water, and all this that community collectively use and collectively manage is there where we I want to locate this woman's voice and agency is. And specifically when we talk about the importance of the vast land, the forest land or the pasture lands that is in India, and there are certain subset of population like the rural population, and within that rural population the livestock keepers, the forest dwellers, the scheduled tribe, the scheduled caste people who are specifically dependent on these resources. The dependence on these resources are very high. If we go to next slide. So the dependence on these resources are very high, but what does securing rights over commons means? Because it's not a private land, so you do not have a title on your name specifically, like an individual name. But what does securing rights over these common means? There are two aspects for securing rights over common. One is the tenurial rights that you have that access to the land. The land belongs to your community or the indigenous community, the tribal community or the Dalit community there. But it also means a crucial part of it is the management rights. Like, do the community members have the right to manage their own resources, to have rules and regulation for their own resources? And that is where the core issue lies, because at present, there might be enabling laws and enabling acts that let communities have access to the resources as well as management rights, but it's still very difficult for community to have those rights. And specifically when those management rights are enjoyed by the community, that is where we start asking questions that are women included in leadership? Are women included in decision making? Like if there is rules and regulation being placed, like for example, like Rukasen was telling about mining and every resource extraction. We all know about FPIC, free prior informed consent, but are women in that meeting where the free prior informed consent is being taken? Like in India, the Gram Sabha is a very institutional, it's an institutionally mandated body, constitutionally mandated body, and plays key role in taking decision over the common lands. But many times it's found that the women, members of the community, do not participate in this Gram Sabhas, in these local institutional bodies. Next slide. So a small study was done by a team here in Foundation for Ecological Security, where I work, where we were trying to understand that what women leadership looks like in four different states, where the two states were like majorly pastoral states like Rajasthan and Karnataka, and Madhya Pradesh and Odisha were the forest dominant states. So what does leadership looks like for them, and what opportunities do women actually enjoy there? Next slide. So what we found was the governance, like women's participation is at core when we talk about community management and governance of resources. But across the four states that we undertook this small study was that there were the leadership opportunities were women, would varied across a spectrum. So there were villages, there were habitations, or there were places where it was very low. So there were no women leaders. And by leaders, I really do not mean like someone who's holding a post or a portfolio, but someone who is very vocal or is very whose voice is listened and respected in the community. And we found that in the lowest of low cases, there were no women leaders. Women wouldn't participate in the meetings, and their opinions were not heard. But in the highest of cases, like you could see on the right, the extreme right end of it, that there were women leaders and they were respected, their voices were heard. And one of the successful outcome of the highest potential that we saw across the leadership was that when many more leaders started raising their voices, we saw that they positively impacted the active participation of women in the meetings. So just women, the women who never used to come for the meeting, they started attending the meetings. The women who were attending the meeting, they started raising their voices. So it's like a cascading effect. It goes on. So the next slide. What we could understand from our study was there are several enabling factors that enables a woman to raise a voice or enables a woman having the opportunity to take up leadership roles in the community. And one of it was, and it's from the most micro of household to the macro to the society level, and was simple like household chore, because in India it's a patriarchal society and there is a gender division of labor. So many times women do not have free time or do not have time or spaces to venture out because they are so much involved in reproductive activities, caregiving activities, that they do not have the time or the space to go out. And groups, specifically something that came out is the huge role that women's collective groups play in this, because these groups, they meet once or twice in a month, and they get together, and when they form this kind of camaraderie among themselves, a solidarity among themselves, and they start discussing many issues, and they start encouraging others that no, maybe we should venture out, maybe we should go there and discuss this with the larger meetings that go on. And when at community level, when during meetings, especially at community level, when the voices of women are accepted, it's respected, that is when women feel safe to raise their voices. Uh, uh, the next slide would explain more on what are the current challenges that women are facing. The challenges, like discussed above, one of the key issue was the gender division of labor and unpaid care work, because women were so much involved with caregiving activities. They did not really have that strength left in them then to go and then take up leadership activities, because many of the time the households were not supportive of the fact that they'll be leaving their responsibilities at home and they'll be venturing outside. Deep-seated discriminatory attitudes, like in many cases in all the states that we were working, that we were doing this research, there were things like, well, decision making is not a woman's role, it's a men's role. So things like that. And when it's added restrictions of women's mobility, lack of access to formal education, well, formal education in rural India is challenged till date, but specifically when we talk about gender disaggregated data, it is not very good in regards with the women access to education. So all this thing, when it's put together, it is very difficult for women, because society in itself, the group, the Gram Sabhas and every said, they do not take women as leaders. And even though there are the laws and enabling conditions, the society does not openly accept them as leaders. Next slide. But in the few cases that we saw women taking up leadership was one of thing was the increasing participation and leadership of women, where one woman came out and they started raising their voices. It acted as like a magic. It acted like a cascading effect. There were more women coming forward. There were more women wanting to talk and wanting to share their opinions. Economic opportunities, like amazing economic opportunities in Madhya Pradesh, where we did this study. There were women NTFP collectors. The Tendu leaf is a big source of revenue and NTFP for the tribal population there, indigenous population there. And they have this trading cards, NTFP trading cards issued by the government. But that was in the name of the household head. So that is where the gender game is played. So household head in India is mostly men, and then this woman they started discussing that we do collection, we go for selling this. Why do we really need to why do we really need to share this with men? So they could took the cards in their own name. The environmental outcome in Madhya Pradesh again, women fighting for not felling their trees. They were fighting the forest department against the illegal felling of trees. So it's amazing outcomes. Just the last slide is a couple of key points that we takeaways that we took from this study is way forward. What could future course of action could look like? Is the role of CSOs and NGOs is a huge thing because they help in empowering the communities in navigating the bureaucratic and legislative structure. Capacity building, investment in huge capacity building of women leaders. There are women leaders out there, but there is a paucity. They do not have a lot of legal recourses. They don't have knowledge of a lot of legal recourses. So in that capacity building is needed. And gender inclusive governance framework. We need our laws, our regulations to be gender inclusive, not just inclusive, but gender responsive to understand the current situation and then build upon it. So yeah, thank you. And that's my presentation. I would take any questions or any takeaways that you have.
Thank you so much, Apurva, to mention that land ownership is not just about the names on the entitlement, but it's about controlling, using, accessing, managing those lands, and that to a feminist perspective and under women leadership. And thank you for highlighting how women's voices in governance can transform the way we think about tenureship, participation, and justice in general. Thank you. Now, I would like to participate audience once again, and I would ask Neil or Lillian to cast the second poll. Thank you. And the question is, biggest barrier to women accessing land? What that could be? Because of the lack of seed, customary laws and social norms, urban migration, soil infertility. What do you think? Please cast your vote. Thank you. And now can I see the results? Yes, we have the right answer. And yes, the correct answer is customary laws and social norms. This often override formal rights and make it harder for women to inherit it, buy, or govern the land, even when the laws say they can. Thank you so much. Now, I would like to invite a speaker from Mongolia, Tanji. Please unmute yourself and make your speak about voices of youth in rangelands, nomad women claiming their space in Mongolia. Thank you so much. Over to you.
Thank you, Mega. Can I share my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Counselor was supposed to present, but she lives in the countryside. I will introduce her on her behalf. Okay, today now I'm presenting voices of youth from rangeland, nomad women claiming their space in Mongolia and Central Asia. Okay, rangeland and youth. For young people, nomadic life offers freedom and closeness to nature, yet it also comes with challenges such as climate change, limited access to education, unemployment, and migration to urban areas. Despite two obstacles, new opportunities are emerging. Youth are blending traditional knowledge with modern tools and innovations, becoming drivers of positive change in their communities. Nomadic women play a wide-ranging role. They are central to household and livestock management, from organizing seasonal rangelands to purchasing dairy products and sustaining household economies. Their contribution is unmeasurable. Beyond the households, women are increasingly taking part in the local decision making and ensuring their voices and heard. They also play a circular role in preserving and passing on cultural heritage and traditional to future generation. Okay. How women herders are creating their own space. Today, women herders are building their space not only within their families but also in wider society. First is in rural area, women are heard leading cooperatives and small business, supporting local economies through dairy, wool, leather, and handcraft production. Second is they are forming groups to collaborate on joint business and educate joint business. Third is by partnering with non-government organizations. They are implementing the projects that bring solution to their needs to priorities. These examples demonstrate how women herders are shaping their own space and voice in social and economic life far beyond the steppe. Okay, our conclusion is the space of nomadic women is not only about land, it also means the right and participate in society, access to education, economic opportunities, and voice in the decision making. Today is young women and girls in rangeland regions are expressing their voices are strongly than ever, becoming leads of change through education, leadership, collaboration, and innovation. They are redefining traditional spaces in wonderful new ways. That's it. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Tangi and Gandalfur, for take us to the concerns of and the practices of Mongolian, and Central Asian herder women, and showing us how nomadic youth are, and especially women, are balancing traditions and innovations with cooperatives and other marketing avenues while claiming the rightful to the spaces of lands. Thank you so much. Meanwhile, please share your questions in the Q&A session. Now, finally, I will also share some reflection from the South Asian context, and we'll be talking about more about how land and livelihoods are interconnected for pastoralist women in the South Asian countries. Lillian, can you please share the screen? Thank you so much. Yeah. So, just quickly, I will introduce or take you to the way of life, because the pastoralism is not just an occupation, it's a way of life, and which is deep rooted in the South Asian context and Central Asian context, where community who herd the livestock from one place to another in search of water, fodder, food, and livelihoods. Livestock keeping in general is the second oldest and largest livelihood across the generations we have come from, and millions of are depending directly or indirectly to the animal husbandries. Yet the question remains, are pastoralists truly recognized and supported? Is the invaluable indigenous knowledge passes down through the generations are acknowledged or integrated into the policy or practices? This is the questions that arise every time we talk about pastoralism. Next slide, please. And particularly, if we talk about data as well, because pastoralism in South Asian or any region context, it's not about only the livelihood, but it's dependent on various aspects. That one per se is land ownership, and we have seen that only less than 13 or 14% of women owning the land. Also, with the care burden, I think every herder woman from her working hours, 7 hours and 9 minutes of a day are passing towards or tasking towards the milking, cleaning the shelters, feeding the animals, and processing the animal products. This is a huge contribution in general. Also, if we talk about the climate impact, 80% of the climate-induced displacements impacting women, and especially women who are migrating and do not own any particular land. Even we talk about the market access. After doing all this hard work and care burden work, there are limited avenues of accessing the market, or they don't have a formal linkages for the market. Even as Rukasen, Apurva, and Dangi mentioned, the leadership role of women is very restricted. If we say indigenous community or pastoralist community or a herding community. Next stage. But when we talk about all these challenges, that the world is grappling with nowadays. We are grappling with employment issue. We are grappling with starvation issues. We were grappling with a climate crisis or a peace crisis in general. So I think the pastoralism with its way of life always cater the solution to uh, all the crisis that world is grappling with their livelihood avenues, with their way of life, which do not contribute to climate extractions. So, moving to the practical work, because this is the way of life here is providing the solution to the all the crisis. I will today will give you nuance around the one specific solution that women in itself come up. Next slides with. This is the practical work which was taken up by pastoral women in the western part of India. where women come together and form the Women Pastoral and Management Committee. And that committee, in under its own and their own leadership, got the trainings, do some leadership work, and develop a plan how to use that common grazing land. And under their leadership, under their traditional knowledge around the native grass species, native tree species, how to breed the indigenous livestock, they have enhanced the plans to manage that piece of rangeland, and they have contributed those with their indigenous knowledge. And I think within 2 to 3 years of intervention, the 110 women, pastoral women across the 10 villages, enhance the livelihoods and uh, revive those geographical grasslands. And now they own the land, community own the land, and more than 10,000 of small ruminants rely on the land, and it directly impacted their livelihood sustainability. So this is a one intervention that took place in the western part of India, that is Gujarat. If you go further, you can see the slides that how the women received the training on grazing land management, leadership skills, collective organizations, and pastoral land development planning and management. And through this capacity and their traditional knowledge, how they uh, redevelop, redesign, revive, and restore those common grazing land. And now their livelihood is some sort of secured through that. Through this efforts, again, I want to mention some data that through these efforts, grazing land in 10 villages have been successfully developed and restored, and these lands are now support the sustenance of more than 10,000 of some small ruminants like goats and sheep, and are vital to pastoralist families and their livelihoods. That this impact, I think, goes beyond the land protection. The livelihood based on milk and milk products have flourished, creating a resilient economy around the communities. Women's are active, involved, and has led the better resources of this land. Additionally, the process encouraged formal resolutions as well. I think in 10 of the village panchayat, they now have the formal letter to or formal entitlements where the committee owns the collective land. So this is against a more or like a achievement for them to own the particular piece of land. And I think in essence, pastoralist women are the custodian of land, knowledge, and livelihood. The leadership in rangeland and management is essential building for a climate resilient practice, securing food system, and fostering the inclusive economic growth in across the region. So this is just a solution provided from the western part of India. Our women across the South Asian countries, like in Afghanistan as well, there are many community-based natural resource management committees that are working to secure their environment and work for the sustainability of their grazing areas. So not only in Afghanistan and India, Nepal as well, with the transhuman practices, women are leading and transforming the practices against all the challenges of the against all the climate-induced challenges. So this is again the women's contribution uh, in the sustainable livelihood, sustainable climate, sustainable future. So this is it from my side, and thank you for listening to me. I would now open the floor for more question answers. If any of the panel, if any of the listeners to have their questions, please uh, write your answer questions in the chat box. Yes, we have one question. Okay. So this is for Apurva. what are the avenues for women influencing the decision making when it comes to commons? What kind of influence does female leadership have other women in the community, especially young women? And does this influence varies or remain same across the identities? Okay.
Yeah, do I answer the question now?
Yeah, you can go ahead. We do have one more question, but we can go later on. Yes.
Yeah. So thank you for asking that question. But like what Megha was presenting or what Ruka Sen was presenting, much of I want to reiterate that when it comes to common land, there are there are laws and acts which mandates communities ownership of land, the community management of land. And then within these rules, there are governing institutions and governing bodies mandated through laws. And these are great avenues for women's participation. One that India we have in the panchayat through the Panchayati Raj Act, the India has one-third reservation of seats for women, and specifically for tribal and then Dalit women. And then when we come to these local communities governing their bodies, they themselves also have those reservation mandates there. So there are avenues for women to come up to leadership. So these local bodies, local institutions plays a great role for women to come up to that places. One of the key challenges women often face is when they come up to these spaces, but they often face a restraint from other majority gender of not accepting their point of view or uh, not taking their views into consideration. But women have shown that through time and again, through constant effort, there have been made changes in that. So these local bodies are great avenues. Apart from these local bodies, the local women collective, the SHGs functioning there, the agriculture producer clusters, that's also a good avenue for women's leadership. So how they actually impact is that when women collectivize together, they help empower each other. So they help raise each other voices. So that also plays a crucial role in this whole process. And women leaders have definitely influenced the younger generation women leaders to come up. So there were incidences from a study in Odisha where there was this older woman leader, and she said that I make a point that every young leader is part of these governance group, a governance body that is there. And that especially is there. But we need also to be uh, a little more careful when we talk about influences because there are caste and class groups. So we need to time and again question that are certain caste groups getting more opportunities than other caste groups. So in when it comes to caste and class, might there might be a little disparity in there. The woman that is might be of an upper caste, and she's not influencing lower caste, the mobility of lower caste women. So that is something that we need to be take care of.
Thank you, Apurva, for addressing. And I think yes, it's you said very correctly for this question. The second question is from the Diana Callo. Uh, uh, it's like with the challenging climate that has affected pastoral communities, what are some of the initiatives we can adopt for alternative livelihood without affecting culture and risking the safety of these women? Okay, with a pastoralist background, I would like to uh, address this question. And again, Apurva, Rukasan, and Tangi, you can add afterwards also. Thank you so much. So, um, Yes, I think Rukasan also mentioned that the indigenous community or pastoralist community, they are not the reason behind the climate crisis, but they are impacted most out of it. And there needs to be some sort of initiative right after the second or every second that we can adopt for the alternative livelihoods. But after more engaging with the communities and especially women, um, they don't want to change their livelihood all in together. They want to continue their legacy, they want to continue their livelihood avenues, but with alternative, I think yes, the younger generation are more towards the technological aspect. So some sort of, I think, dairy cooperatives where we can or some sort of market avenues where the organic milk or milk-based products can be monetized. There should be some vocational and formal education systems around those traditional livelihoods where younger generations are learn about it and they can contribute with their knowledge as well. On the scientific, again, where the indigenous breeds are uh, not induce the climate change, but are now mostly impacted as humans, breeds are also impacted. So I think that with the traditional knowledge, pastoralists do have the scientific knowledge as well with the health of breeds, with how to make cross breeds to have the more milk yield, more meat yield, more wool based yield. So these kinds of scientific and technicality needs to be added to the to strengthen the livelihood rather than alternate the altogether livelihoods and not risking the culture in future. So I think yes, this can be the thing. Hope I was able to answer your questions. If Apurva, Rupasen, and Tengi want to add anything.
Panelists, there was another question that Ruka-sen answered, but perhaps it would be also interesting to hear from the others.
Okay. Uh, Okay, so Biswas Nepali also asking that we always talking about the obstacles of women to access to the land, but the women land rights campaign is not enough for the ensure the land rights. What are the key challenges for the spreading the campaign? And Rukasen mentioned in the chat box the answer, but if you want to, Rukasen, give a brief answer here to the larger audience with your voice, it would be better. We have few minutes to answer. Rukasen, if you want to, or Apurva, if you wanted to add anything from on Rukasen's answer. Should I read out Rukasen's answer?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Awareness campaigns on women's land rights are important, but they are not enough on their own because the challenge are deeply structured. Customary and practical norms still prevent women from claiming land even when laws exist. At the same time, weak implementation of land policies, lack of women's representation in decision making, and limited awareness among women themselves make it difficult to turn rights into reality. Land scarcity and cultural resistance and future obstacle. So the real challenges is not only spreading the campaign but also addressing the systematic barriers to ensure that women's rights to land are actually recognized and enforced.
Yeah, I agree totally with Lucas and each and every word of it that it is a structural issue. Land rights and access to resources is not something that can be done unfortunately only through laws and regulations, because as we know, there are many regulations at place. But it's not as impactful as we want it to be. And one of the reasons is that the structural patriarchy at the places, the cultural practices, the societal norms are so deeply rooted. So I guess it's a two-pronged approach. I guess we need to work more on breaking these structural barriers, the sensitization policies, time and again, sensitization program. But we also radically need a lot of women representation in decision making, in capacitating them, giving knowledge of their rights to them. So, in one in one way, we are influencing the society through these sensitization programs. But I think that when representation of women we speak about, then there is the quota system or the reservation policy that we have is an important policy, and it should be mandated. It should be mandatory. It should be seen that it's being adhered to. So I guess we need to interact with law, but we also need to have interaction with the communities that are interacting with the law.
Yes, very true, Apurva. We have another question, and I think after that we will go further. Rukasan, it's for all panelists, so whosoever wanted to address, they can. The question is, as all of us shared, women face discrimination in accessing to secure land tenure right, land governance system. But do you think young women face additional discrimination because of their age? Do you feel so? This is the question. Rukasan, Tangi, Apurva, or myself, if anybody wants to address. You're mute, Rukasan. If you're speaking, you're mute.
Uh, well, for me, young women often face double discrimination because back then when I was teaching, I have known it with my student as well. So both as women and because of their age, in many communities, um, land governance system are always dominated by elders and men. I'm the eldest one in my house, means with of course with the three siblings, but I can see that always young women voices are rarely taken seriously. Even within families, land inheritance usually follows marriage or adulthood's milestone. In today's, like, this is just a part. When I asked my father, like, I have three siblings, two brothers, and I'm the eldest one. I say that I built this house, just give me this inheritance property to me. But he always mentioned that no, you will be getting married. You are not from our family. You will be with the other family. So you see, they may lack of awareness on their rights, but or confidence to challenge traditions. But in a meanwhile, women face barriers, and young women often experience an additional layer of exclusions because they are seen like, oh, you are too young to make the decisions about land. Right. So, yes, women often face double discrimination. Thank you.
Thank you. Apurva, you wanted to add anything? Or Tangi?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to add like exactly what Rupa-sen said about her her discussion with her father was the same that I had, because I belong to the indigenous tribe in Jharkhand, and women do not have land rights, according to customary law. And I was like, the same opinion, like you're going to get married, so why you don't need that. But I guess, yeah, like the poem said, customary laws are very it is disadvantageous to women, but specifically young women, because and specifically a millennial woman or a Gen Z woman who really do not want to settle down or to be married. So it's like the institutions are tied around. So you just need to access each of it to get access to resources here. So yeah, I think that in the young women do face much more difficulties than other women.
Indeed, indeed. But yeah, I think together we can do something to change the narrative, to change the policies, to change the customary practices. Thank you, going forward. Thank you once again for listening. I hope all these presentations shed light on the transformative power of women and importance of their rightful places in sustainable land and livelihood management. Thank you, our audience, for this thoughtful questions, and to our panelists for responding with such honesty and clarity. Now, to wrap up this panelist and Q&A session, I would again like to throw a poll. If Linian, you could display the third question. Yes, the question is the group that least likely to have the formal land rights. Is it a urban women entrepreneur, women in farming cooperatives, indigenous and pastoralist women, or women working in government? Again, this is about the intersectionality that we have talked today, because as women own less than 13% of global land, yet under the intersectionality within the women, which group least likely to have the formal land rights? So, okay, can you show the poll results? Yes, with the 69% of votes, it's indigenous and pastoralist women. The answer is very right. Yes, the community women, especially who belong to indigenous community or pastoralist background, are facing the challenges to avail the formal land rights. Thank you so much, audience, to participating in this poll as well. And thank you once again, panelists and audience, for this interactive session. Before going ahead, I would like to reflect on today's session, what we heard now. Indigenous women are protecting their lands and culture. Women's voices in governance can transform the power and participations. And nomadic youth and pastoralist women are also facing the challenges and yet parallelly providing the solutions with cooperatives, with land management techniques. To the societies. I think through this although all these contexts are different, the message is same. Land is not just as a property; it is a dignity, identity, and power for the women. Now, from all the panelists and this and the community we are coming from and the community we represent, I think we want to call to an action that let us challenge the discriminatory laws and norms that keep women away from the land ownership and decision making. Let us stand in solidarity with the indigenous and pastoralist women who are on the front lines of defending land and commons. And let us, as a youth, ensure that feminist perspective are not altogether but the center of land justice movement. So because her land is her power is not only for herself, it is for her family, her community, and her shared future. So thank you so much. I invite each of you, whether you are a researcher, activist, policymaker, or a youth participant, to take today's inspiration back to your spaces, speak up, organize, and act for land justice where you are. Together, across borders and movements, we can transform land into a space of justice, equality, and resilience. Finally, on behalf of our panelists, Rokasan, Tanji, myself, Apurva, we want to extend our thank you to everyone who have joined us on the Land Portal Youth Conference. We are also extended our thanks to Land Portal Digital Youth Conference organizers who had provided this kind of insightful platform to all of us. And we would like to also extend our thanks to International Land Coalition Youth Group to create such spaces where youth can together speak up. We are also extending our thanks to interpreters for interpreting this conversation in different languages. Thank you so much. And I think this is not the end of the conversation. I think it is the beginning. Let's carry forward the spirit of her land, her power into every day of work and our struggles. Thank you so much. Now I am opening this space for all of us to say anything at the end of this. We have few more minutes, I think. 3-4 more minutes. If Apurva, Rukasan, Tangi, you wanted to convey any last strong messages from your community, from your young women you belong to. Thank you. Any strong last messages, Apurva, Rukasan, Tangi?
Okay. Well, there is a lot to speak, but yeah, you see, protecting women's land rights is not just about land. That we have been repeatedly saying about it, and it is about justice, also about equality and survival of our community as well. When Apurva was mentioning about the wanted reservation for the women. But you see, in Assam, in the context of Assam, 50% of reservations is given to the women. But at the same time, there is only 2 to 3 women in the parliament or in the legislative you will find. There is no 50% of women you will find. Mostly are men. So in that sense, when women own and control land, we protect culture, also secure livelihoods and build a future where everyone can thrive. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me as a panelist today. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Rukasan.
No, I agree. I agree. My last parting thoughts would be, as a young researcher, indigenous researcher, I would encourage every indigenous researcher upcoming to dig more, to do a lot of research, to get more details out there, because we need to speak more about that issue and again and again and again until we see changes. And we all are young leaders in our own communities, so let's take our voices back to our communities as well. Because it's one thing to represent, to be a part of panelists like this, but it's more essential, equally essential, to take our voices back to our families and our communities as well. So everyone who joined this as a participants, panelist, or audience, let's just try making little impact by talking more about these issues in our own community.
Thank you, Tangi. Any last words? Any powerful messages from youth from Mongolia and Central Asia?
Thank you for inviting us to participate. If Kandala were here, she would have shared even more with you. Mongolian herder women are creating small businesses as additional sources of livelihood, producing dairy, wool, leather, and handcraft products. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I think this is the quite loud message. Lead from the community, protect our community, get data from the community, make policy for and from the community, and make everybody's voice audible at the local to global platform. And again, thank you so much, Land Portal, ILC, and other platforms to provide spaces for youth like us who are from the community and raising the voice of the community. Once again, thank you so much. Thank you all, and maybe see you all again in solidarity. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.